interject you. Are you saying that one of our problems is the quality manpower that we don't have? Because you mentioned Bolaji Akiyemi, and the name that came to my head also was Emeka Nyoko. So are you saying, for example, that we do not have quality manpower steering the ship of state anymore?
I was trying to get there. It's
okay,
not quality manpower. I'm talking about institutions. Strong institutions. If you go to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs right now, you see men with high practical and intellectual ability.
Good day, good day, good day. I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, so I mean, some people I know you're just waking up. It depends on what continent you're on. Some be a midday, some going to sleep. I mean, it's how amazing the time different works, you know. So I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's another Friday. It's State of the Nation, Nigeria. Always plenty to discuss, and the world is evolving. New world order, the transatlantic. Bond is not the same like before. The Canadians are veering east and west. You know, the Europeans too are going very east. You know, they've gone, they're in India, they're in China now. A lot is happening. But then, within the synopsis of all this involvement, we really have to find out what role will Nigeria be playing. Nigeria, like we've always said in the past, is the largest concentration of Black people on the planet. It should be playing a strategic role, you know. We can't be non-aligned. Even if we're non-aligned, we should be playing an economical role. As of some 10 years back, Nigeria was the largest economy in Africa. I think, under Jonathan. Now we're the 5th largest economy as of today, which is quite embarrassing. Because when you look at the Asian continent, the most populated countries there have the largest economy. You know, the manpower plays a lot of role. Also in North America, same thing. In South America, Brazil is the largest economy there, and they have the population to back it up. But in Africa, we have the largest population, and we're the 5th largest economy. You know, that's, well, to always put it mildly, is very embarrassing. And it still boils down to leadership. Actually. You know, it doesn't matter what anybody has to say. It's a failure of leadership, and that's why we don't know what we're doing. But then we have to find solutions. That's what we do at State of the Nation. We also find solutions. It's not just enough to criticize and all that, you know, but there should always be a way around it, you know. And one of the things I've always harped on is why our elections are not being free and fair. It's a major, major aberration in our development, you know. I mean, the elites might not be well calibrated to deliver, but we should be able to organize free and fair election. Ghana is doing it. You know, and they are just doing it almost effortlessly. The last election, the loser had even congratulated the winner before the final tally was around. So that's why today we're coming with another legal luminary, a special one at that. He's an international lawyer. He's a people's advocate. He's on top of his game, you know. He writes a lot. He's a columnist on the Digest. He's written a lot. Also, he has his own practice. We have today Festus Ogwuche. I call him the Attorney General of the world. Attorney, how you doing today?
I'm all right. Thank you for that wonderful colleague.
Yeah, you're looking very young. What's happening? You know, you don't be sleeping.
No, I'm just a happy man. We are living in very, very bizarre times. Our president just collapsed yesterday in Turkey. I really felt aging is quite a process, and we are part of that process and into that aging process as well. And I quite understand. It's something that we should be sympathetic, you know, in that direction to show our humanity, because it's once you are aging, you get weak at all points in the joints, in the legs, in the at the waist. So you have to feel for a colleague who are
Okay,
just like
you can say that again. I mean, I can't say I'm not feeling it too somehow. But then
Yeah.
let's go for the jugular like we always do.
Yes.
The hour is gone. So let's maximize it.
Mhm.
Now you mentioned Turkey. I mean, 2 days ago the president fell and all that. I mean, he's a geriatric, he's an old man, people fall, it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
But in lieu of what's happening all over the world, you can see that the transatlantic pact is not like before. The American relationship with the Europeans are looking
Mhm.
towards China, towards India. The EU just signed a major agreement, and the way they are going, Indians might not be needing visa to go to anywhere in the European Union again. Canada, same thing with China and all that. So where is Nigeria in all this? So you mentioned Turkey. Is there anything tangible that came out from that Turkish trip by President Tinubu?
Well, the president has been traveling quite a lot in
Mm.
recent times, and we have not seen much in terms of the benefits of that travel.
Okay.
It could be long term. It could be long term.
Mm.
The aim of that travel is not well known, apparently because he travels quite a lot, and people are not so interested in maybe the reasons for his travel, because it's
Okay.
usually the same reasons for bilateral relations, for industrialization, for friendly contacts and all that. But I think that the new world order requires that this travel is very imperative, at least for presidents to meet and judge or have diplomatic talk, strengthen their relations, and create the ambience for international intercourse and relations between both countries, not just between the president or the governors or the officials of state, but also the peoples of that entity. Nigeria is a very strategic country in Africa, not just in Africa, in the third world, globally also. You
Absolutely.
cannot regard it as a point somewhere that can be relegated. Nigeria has come a long way, and this must show in the level and the appreciation that the rest of the world look at us, and whether we're doing the right thing or not. The fact that the largest black people on earth are inhabited by Nigeria, and we have vast human and material resources. And this is a country that has played a very major role in the liberation of Africa, South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and the rest of them. I think Nigeria is something that should be accorded with every bit of importance and recognition across the world.
Okay, in the past, it's easier to say that in the past, vis-a-vis our policies and what have you, that we earned those respects. We earn the respect of, I mean, nobody comes to Africa, whether European superpower or the Americans, nobody comes to our corridor, our backyard in Africa to do anything without consulting Nigeria that, oh, we're going here to do this. That clearly is not happening again. So my question to you is, what do we have to do as a nation? Okay, I mean, we're providing solutions now, but to those that are in charge of the country, what do they need to do in the immediate to get Nigeria back into that strategic relevance in the Committee of Nations? Because all we hear is, like my Botswana friend said it, that he always say Nigeria is the largest concentration of black people. 1 out of every this is Nigerian. My Botswana friend will tell me, what does it portend to? Do we generate more electricity than everybody? Do we do this better than everybody? So the question is, what does Nigeria have to do in the interim to put it at that level it was? I mean, maybe at least back to where it was during President Obasanjo.
It will not be an interim measure. It's something that has to be done elaborately with every vigor and every level of concentration, because we have lost so much ground. I remember when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, Nigeria was very much up there in international circles. Even it was well reckoned with by its population. The vigorous nature of the Nigerian society at that time is nothing compared to what we have now. We just have a population explosion without tangible effects and development and improvements on the lives human beings. And that is a very sad commentary. First of all, I think one of the declining factors, or rather one of the factors that led to this decline, is the fact of bad governance, bad quality leadership. And I think Chinua Achebe had captured it in a very succinct terms in his book, The Trouble with Nigeria. And the main factor responsible for the misfortunes that have befallen Nigeria is bad quality leadership. If you can get it right at that level, every other thing will follow. We have lost so much ground in terms of international reputation, integrity, in terms of governance measures, in terms of relevance, and if you can put it that way, in terms of acceptance by other nations. Nigeria has lost so much. We are the leading nation in the Black continent in Africa, and Africa was the centerpiece of our foreign policy. The liberation of South Africa, of Namibia, all the SWAPO battles, and Zimbabwe. Even those times when Bishop Abel Muzorewa was a puppet president, and Nigeria fought vigorously for his removal. Everything Nigeria sneezes, the entire world catches cold, particularly Europe, on very terrible and important issues like apartheid in South Africa. Nigeria was up there. We had a very dynamic foreign policy that captures everything that you need to know, because the government that time worked in synergy with the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Professor Bolaji Akinwumi was there, cerebral young man, very dynamic and vaunting his dynamics.
So sorry to interject you. Are you saying that one of our problems is the quality manpower that we don't have? Because you mentioned Bolaji Akinwumi, and the name that came to my head also was Emeka Nyauku. So are you saying, for example, that we do not have quality manpower steering the ship of state anymore?
I was trying to get there. It's
okay,
not
go ahead.
Manpower. I'm talking about strong institutions. Strong institutions. If you go to the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs right now, you see men with high practical and intellectual ability who man the opposite door. But to what extent are they consulted when very vital issues of international nature have been done? The Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, were they contacted? Were they consulted before President Tinubu sent forces to the Republic? They were not, because that very next day, the Director General of the Institute stated that it was a very vain effort and it would be counterproductive, which suggests or presupposes that he was not aware that the president of the country was moving in that direction. Our foreign policy that time was properly shaped. Shaped to the extent that everything about Africa, we took it on our heads. Even the idea of a festival for blacks arts and culture, which we called Festac, was on the basis of advice from the Institute of International Affairs. We had a judiciary that was functional, objective, fair, straightforward. And you know this by looking at the law reports of the 70s, look at the decisions of the Supreme Court from the 70s, 80s, and compare to recent judgments of 2026 or 2025. Then you see the width, the gap in the quality of jurisprudence, the quality of evidential evaluation, and the quality of those decisions. It's not that the quality of individuals have declined, or maybe we don't have strong officials or personnel who can manage. People are even more educated, more intelligent now than then. I mean, this is the computer age, and a lot of those persons that manned the administration of this country at that time, they were not. You will not.
I might not agree with you on that. That people are more intelligent now than then. The world might be more technologically advanced. Do you understand? There's enough technology to aid your study.
Probably I should have used the word exposure. People are more exposed.
Yeah, but it's a function of
the selection process. The selection process for people is more robust in terms that merit was considered foremost before any other thing.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
To that extent, I agree with you. But then we had institutions that were very strong. The police force. those days they tell us that one single policeman is around the neighborhood, and everybody will be very curious as to what brought him there. People will be asking themselves questions. Some whose hands are not clean will be scampering into the bushes. That was them, looking for a place to hide.
Oh God. Nobody is scared of the police again, right?
The national entrance examination was very, very tedious. You have to be very to colleges, to secondary schools. You have to be very intelligent to get through. And by the way, by the time you get through, that's the beginning of hard work. All the institutions are out there.
You're a lawyer, and I mean, one of the major disappointments in Nigeria today, I mean, one of the sectors of our society that has really broken people's heart is the judiciary, and I'm sure that it's one of the reasons why we do not get the type of respect that we should get in the International Committee of Nations. I know Justice Akeola Aguda was chief judge in Botswana at a particular time. Nigeria has seconded judges to Gambia, Sierra Leone, that kind of thing, And like you said, we've had fantastic juries, the Nikki Tobis, the Akeola Aguda, we've said. Our Supreme Court used to be extremely robust, I mean, Prince Bolaji Bola, a lot of them in the World Court and all that. Now, it still doesn't mean we do not have good lawyers, but how come, even as a non-lawyer, I can tell you that if the Supreme Court is going to make a judgment on anything, I cannot categorically say, they made a judgment in 1987, so it's cast in stone. It's just this is going to be where the case is going. Nobody can say that again. So, as a lawyer yourself, what do you think can be done to rectify this? I don't know what word to use. This drop in quality and this moral decadence in the Nigerian judiciary. Because if it's not sorted, that means our election can never be free and fair. People just go right result rig, then they tell the loser to go to court because the court will rule in favor of that. So as a lawyer, I know you're worried. We've discussed it before, but what can be done to get us out of that morass? The judiciary part
it's a serious race, and I'm very happy people are beginning to identify it. That the crux of the problem of this country lies on the shoulders of the judiciary. It's quite unfortunate. It's my first constituency as a lawyer, because I practice. I'm a member of the Temple of Justice. The decline started, when we began to acknowledge that maybe politics is the easiest way to get money. When rather than abide by the reports of the Constitutional Drafting Committee and the 1999 Constitution and getting people to get their remunerations the appropriate way, rather than do that, we have the National Assembly allocating to themselves billions and millions of cash, and other institutions doing everything to allocate as much cash to themselves as much as possible. And you have a National Assembly of members that often are not much more very interested in legislative business than making money. You quite well pointed out the problem. But like I said, it's the judiciary. It should be held responsible, because if you have leadership problems, it's not that the people do not have a very good initiative or choice. It's simply that the person's elective offices are just imposed on them, sort of a state capture, hijack of states, not necessarily for governance to thrive or for the appropriate machinery of governance or governments to come into place, but just as a measure of hijacking the resources of state for the pockets of the few. And when they get there, they do not care about the welfare of the country, the welfare of the people. The problem with the judiciary actually arose not during the military era, because the military treated the judiciary with every degree of respect. You recall that they gave the judiciary some bit of respectful distance. You are not interfering in them. And when they gave those judgments, the military will respect. We recall the days of, you mentioned some of them, Nikki Toby, Namani.
Namani, yes.
Ways, fantastic persons. And the thing is that you find it difficult to see any close relationship between the chief judge of the state and the military governor. In fact, they are at arm's length. I think I told you in the other broadcast we had about my colleague in the office, who was registrar in one court, and one of the governors wanted to see him privately. He had to follow the line, join the queue of persons who have been waiting. The judge had never made it. The story is all over the place. So it's not now that a local government chairman can invite the judges of his state judiciary, and all of them will be jumping over their heads, over themselves to get their first, to maybe probably to collect presents, computers, laptops, and other things as gifts, or when governors provide cars for judges, or give them houses outside the due remuneration that is allocated to them at the judiciary head. So it's quite a problem, and it appears that it's going down the doldrums, one after the other, that judicial decisions are no longer certain. In the decisions in the Rivers State in Brooklyn, I can tell you that there's no single decision there that has any precedent. So they are creating a new precedent, and we, the lawyers, we, the practitioners, are finding it difficult to adjust. Because the traditions of law, they are already there. Some of them have already been stated. Constitutional principles are already established. But if you look at the recent judgments, particularly the Supreme Court judgment on the declaration of state of emergency and the power of the president to suspend or remove democratic government at the state level, you find it terribly bizarre to reconcile yourself with it. And that is the Supreme Court. It's not just a court of law, it's also a court of policy. So the thing has to do with the recruitment process of the judges, their caliber, the integrity, the quality of those who are appointed. And we now see that it's now become an in-house thing, sort of a family thing. Nepotism, if you like, that if not for the recent measures taken by the NJC to bring a competitive nature into aspirations, what we used to have is that when there's vacancy, it's either the chief judge of the state or the chief justice of the federation, or any of the justices who want to flood their family members in, their sons, their daughters. And when you raise eyebrows, your friend Chidi Odinkalo had raised a lot of eyebrows to that direction, and they say, well, once they are qualified, but should it be only the children of the high and mighty that are qualified to attain judicial benches? It makes it sound very absurd, but that's the situation. Number two is also the Constitution. It's part of the problem, because it's supposed to create a judiciary that is attuned to our own needs. In our own jurisdiction there in the US, there are certain aspects of judicial offices that are elective. The president could appoint somebody to the Supreme Court, and the person will turn against him in proper issues of law. It doesn't mean that he who appoints, because you are appointed by the president, should kowtow or bow to him obsequiously. But that's the kind of thing we have here, because there's this tradition of expecting from the person you are put into that place, just like putting somebody into office. But then the crux of the matter is, why should the Constitution make a provision that allows governors to appoint judicial officers? There's nothing wrong about it, but you see, if you have extraordinary situations, you try to curtail it or curb it through extraordinary means. If you have problems with the judiciary, then of course the appointments to judicial offices should not be made by the governors. I believe that the judiciary can govern itself, can regulate itself independently, autonomously, outside executive interference. Because most problems we have with the judiciary is the interference of maybe the governor or the president or other politicians who use these machineries to pursue their desperate aspirations to political positions, political offices. And that's quite a problem. And we are saying that the judiciary should be given some shade of independence. The independence of the judiciary is imperative to the running of a system that is free, fair, and objective. And if that is not done, our judicial system is almost going very much down, because the level of confidence, the level of trust, public trust in the judiciary has gone too low for anybody's liking. I'm
Okay.
telling you as a professional. I'm telling you as a professional. I'm telling you as a practitioner.
Okay, fantastic. I want us to go into something else, but before I do that, still on the judiciary, I've observed that it is almost impossible, even in very developed countries, for the Supreme Court to rule against the executive authority. I've observed there that it's very rare, not to not talk of a third world, because the judgments 90% of the time always favor the government
I
in power.
disagree with you on that.
Okay, good. Well, tell me.
Unless you're reclining to the emerging American judicial system that say doing everything,
Yeah, for Trump,
in
yeah.
support of
Not just in
President
America.
Trump.
I mean, I've seen in Africa and some part of Asia, yeah. I didn't say 100% of the time.
Even in Nigeria, the judiciary has always been very objective before now. I think it could be an ill wind that is sweeping across systems.
Yeah, because we're discussing New World Order. Yeah, we're discussing the New World Order. So if it's an ill wind that's sweeping everywhere, is it fair to say it's part of the New World Order that the judiciary should support the executive with any decision?
Okay, I see where you're going now. If it's a new world order, it's a world order that should be stopped in its tracks immediately because it is dangerous for society. But the point I was trying to make is that it is not true that the Supreme Court in the United States in the 80s, you see the kind of judgments they were turning out from there. Even here in Nigeria, we had military juntas, but the judiciary never pandered to the whims and caprices of the
no, they did not.
of the ruling military juntas around that time. Remember, they used to rule with military decrees, and they put ouster clauses. The Supreme Court to come and break those ouster clauses. Cases like Abacha against Fahmy, cases like Sugar Bar against the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yeah, Sugar Bar.
Election petitions that came after at the aftermath of the 1983 elections, June 12, the rest of them. It was when Justice Ikpeme went and gave Association for Nigeria this thing to annul the June 12 elections. That was where this rubbish started. And now it started like a little wound. Now it has become a festering sore. The judiciary has no excuse to align with the authorities or with the establishment just for the purpose of getting their whatever outside the realm of justice, outside the realm of fairness and objectivity. The judiciary, whether it is in the United States or in England or wherever it is, cannot afford to do that because it is to sow bad seeds in that society. It will generate into mires that people cannot pull out of. And that's exactly what could happen in the United States. You may be clapping for the Supreme Court of the United States. Mr. Trump does that, they acknowledge it. He does that, they endorse it. The long-term measures may not be very good. It could be part of the emerging New World Order, but we are not going to accept it. The judiciary must be fair at all times. The judiciary must stand, not on the side of government, but on the side of the people, on the side of justice at all times, knowing that you have a government that is made up of more desperados than people who exhibit the normal traits of leadership. People who are overambitious, particularly in this our own country, Nigeria, where
you said, I'm quoting you now, that the judiciary should be totally independent, right? That's probably why the executive is able to manipulate them. Because we know in Nigeria now, in Abuja, Wike is building houses for them. It's not hidden. It's not that I'm saying it. We saw it. The Minister of Health is doing it. Okay, that's one. Now, is the judiciary not supposed to present a budget just like the executive, and the legislator should their budget not be presented to the executive to add it to what they present to the National Assembly? And when it's approved, money should go straight to the judiciary and they should administer their money any way they deem fit. Not that they'll come cap in hand to the executive like it does seem they are doing right now. Is that not what should be the normal thing?
That is one area I give kudos to President Buhari, because he did everything possible to ensure that the judiciary is independent,
Okay.
not only in terms of finance, but also in terms of appointments and in terms of operations. He came up with the executive order number 10 or thereabout, which says that maybe all monies due to the judiciary be paid to the head of the judiciary for the federation or the state, as the case may be. For disbursement to other areas within that within that sector for the running of the thing. It's not that it should go to the governor and maybe it lies within the governor's discretion to determine what should go to the judiciary or not. In fact, the finance of the judiciary is charged and is charged for the first line charge of the Consolidated Revenue Fund, which is fantastic. The same thing he did with the local government. But I don't know what is going on now. I cannot rightly tell you that is what is operational, because we still have the judiciary pandering to the whims and interests, caprices of these politicians, particularly those of the chief executives in the states and the chief executives at the federation. The case for a true independent, functional and autonomous judiciary lies in the regulating body, which is the NJC, the National Judicial Council. But then we found out that the National Judicial Council itself is vulnerable to arm twisting tactics by the executive. I won't say it can stand on its own, because all it does is to look at how many cases a judge has handled within a given period of time, without considering the content of those cases, whether they align. It's difficult to see cases that
do you think the NJC should be restructured, because it's like the chief judge of the federation is like the CEO and has most of the powers anyway? Do you think
that's exactly the point I'm making? Why should a serving judge be a member of the NJC in the first place? We have judges that are retired and who know the law. They could look at the judgment of the Supreme Court on the state of emergency, which I know is very wrong. I find it difficult to reconcile myself with, and tell the Supreme Court this your judgment is not correct, because they know the law. They can look at the judgments that sentenced the governor Fubara of Rivers State to a fine of 10 million naira for destroying the House of Assembly. By the way, the Supreme Court did not hear him. He was never arraigned before the Supreme Court. There was no charge saying, this man, are you guilty or not guilty? Which conforms with global standards of trial. But they still went ahead and found him guilty and imposed a fine of 10 million. That's a conviction. So if you have a chief justice who is the president or the chairman, whatever, of the NJC, will you expect the person to go and begin to impugn herself? So we talked about restructuring. It's very, very important. We are also talking about strengthening the NJC. The manner it should be. The NJC should not even be composed of judges alone, or justices, or retired justices. It should be composed of members of the people from the private sector, the non-governmental organizations, social people responsible for providing social services, just a potpourri of people from different perspectives and dimensions that will look at things from a very proper angle, not just simply per se on law. So it's something that restructuring is very important. In terms of the membership of the National Judicial Council, not just the restructuring alone, but the fact that it has to be strengthened. And the National Judicial Council should bring out very positive rules, professional rules for judges. Currently, we have about a judges rule, professional rules for conduct and all that. About 7 paragraphs, very terse, very minimal. China has about 75 articles in their rules of professional conduct for judges, so that each indiscretion of exercised by a judge, each travesty will be contained within those rules, so that you know your bounds. Like I was saying, the NJC should also go beyond counting the number of cases disposed of by a judge. Judicial discretion should be curbed, because discretion is like an unruly horse. It can take you to where you don't know. So it is very important that it be curbed by those rules, and that the decisions of courts be looked at by independent bodies of well-experienced gentlemen who look at it and see to the extent to which it aligns with justice. Like I told you, extraordinary circumstances require extraordinary measures to solve the problem. And for the Nigerian case, because the judiciary appears to have gone on a different course altogether, it is imperative that this be done.
Thank you so much. Let's leave the judiciary. Let's move forward. Let's go international a bit. If you were president of Nigeria today, you understand? Things are changing. America is trying to fly solo. They are trying to prioritize, stay in their hemisphere. The calculation, even though we don't know for a fact, is that okay, China will be the power base in this particular area, but India is coming very fast also. So it's a multipolar, multi-powerful, no unipolar again. But so the question is this: what efforts or where should Nigeria be tilting our own diplomacy right now? Economically, we need ally. Militarily, we need ally. We can't be non-aligned, really. But that's why the first question I asked was, do you think the Turkish visit was relevant to whatever Nigeria should be doing in the world order? But however, based on what I'm saying right now, what kind of friends should we be making? Can you give us specifics? Should we go back to the Europeans? Should we go back to the Asia? Should we go back to the Americans? Or should we just be dealing with everybody? Or should we just look inward, develop ourselves? You can't develop in isolation, but recalibrate ourselves internally and use Africa as the focal point of our foreign policy, strategically West Africa, which of course is divided already under the leadership of Nigeria. So where do you think the effort right now should be tilted towards based on the reorganization going on in the world?
Yes, the collapse of the Berlin Wall created a bipolar world. The unipolar dimension collapsed a bit, so non-alignment does not come in again. But then it's exposed the world to several vulnerabilities, particularly those of us that are in the third world country, on where our alignment should go, whether to the west or to the east. There are no standing rules that say that this is where your predilection should be. This is where your heart should. But the problem with Africa is that none of these things have worked. The Berlin Wall collapsed many years ago, and we still have these exploitative tendencies from people we try to align with, not even from the West, that took us slavery for hundreds of years and exploited pre-colonial and post-colonial exploitation, but also from the East, from China, from Russia, from other parts of the world, that each time Africans sit to discuss economic matters, it's just to what extent Africa can be exploited. Look at what is happening in South Sudan. Look at what is happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It is simply that Africans have not been able to put themselves together. And we are now agreeing, or maybe appearing to agree totally and perpetually with the manner the continent was carved out and subdivided into bits and pieces. Some cousins met themselves at the Berlin conference. Otto von Bismarck came and sat on table, and they subdivided this country. The Africans were not there. And that is where the root of the African problem is. That you have an African Union that is not talking about integration. It's not talking about intergovernmentalism. If not for Brexit, Europe was already doing it. And they are the people who came to carve us out into different bits and pieces, not for our own convenience, but for the convenience of their own administrative and exploitative tendencies. In fact, the main crux of that conference in Berlin, 1884 to 1885, was how to create a settlement for King Leopold to murder millions and millions of people in the Congo. But then that is apart. The assignment before the African leaders is how to synergize and come close and bring back the days of Kwame Nkrumah and see the extent to the political unification the extent to the possibility of the political unification of Africa. Bring all Africans together. In that way, you not see the kind of thing you're seeing in the Congo, the type of thing you're seeing in French-speaking countries. In Africa, I see those exploitative tendencies. Africa holds the richest mineral resources across the world. The strongest manpower you can find anywhere. So we're not supposed to be begging. But how many years after independence? Over 5 decades. We still remain the way we are because of the structure. Just as you suggested that the NJC is structured. What I'm proposing here, my thesis is that the African continent needs to be restructured in a manner that will bring together all these diverse economies, 52 countries that are not serving any purpose, just serving the purpose of the leaders. Bring them together towards a proper unification of all African persons under one government. A loose form of intergovernmentalism, which can be taken care of by treaties. Europe did their own, and is still thriving. So it is not just singling out Nigeria to what Nigeria alone cannot do the right things. Look at Burkina Faso. It found itself on the right footage and is now applying these policies and principles for the good of the people. Income per capita in that small country has risen impressively.
Yeah, that
but in Nigeria, in spite of all the resources we have, everything we have, Nigeria remains the poverty capital of the world. So that gives you a good idea of the extent to which this state of affairs, this monolithic enterprise set up by Europe for the government of Africa has become a very big thorn in the flesh.
Do you think Nigeria is ready? I mean, as we are today, do you think we're ready for the way the world is changing?
How can you be ready when your elections are not free? When what we have there is more of state capture than proper conduct of elections. The international community and the United Nations and international organizations understand the propriety of properly conducted electoral processes, and that's why they send international observers. But beyond that, they do nothing. Look at what this gentleman did recently in Uganda. Look at what happened in Cameroon. So long as these things persist, you begin to continue to have the most unscrupulous characters at the helm of affairs in Africa. And their interests will not go beyond personal interests for themselves and members of their family, for their self-sustenance. Because you cannot create an ambience ever in this continent where a leader will serve his term and quietly withdraw. Look at this gentleman that they forcefully pushed into governance in Cote d'Ivoire.
Ouattara.
Gbagbo and this one, stopped him, cut him short, and said, "Man, you are not getting into power."
Yeah, look and he's doing the same thing now.
So it's just a vicious cycle. The man is looking for, he has gotten a third tenure, on, and the man will not leave that place. Even in most cases, I doubt at the long run, any time from now, I don't think death will even push them out of that place.
Yeah, but in all fairness to Ouattara, I think he's tried twice to name his prime minister as a successor, but they die, actually. I don't know if you're following it. They always die. Anyway, okay, that's an aside. Time is never our friend, but let me ask you this question before we finish today. Do you think democracy works for Africa? Do you think, former President Obasanjo has said it before that we should try and define our own democracy, define it, look for something that works for us. It was when you mentioned Ouattara that came to my head. Look at it. Paul Biya has been there immediately after Ahidjo. If you go to Gabon, Bongo dynasty has been there forever. The one that is even there, the military guy that is now a civilian president, is a cousin of the Bongo. So Gabon is Bongo. If you look at Benin, Benin has been slightly democratic, even though Kerekou was there for a long time. But things have changed now with their new constitution. Togo, it has been Nasingbe all the way after they killed Olympio. Ghana and Senegal, they seem to be balanced, democratic.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can say Those are countries where government in power have lost election, and the people throw out people that want to be autocratic. So Gambia, I mean, Dawda Jawara forever, Yaya Jammeh, Babili Mansa, whatever they call him, he came in that. So, but there's a role Nigeria has to play because of the size and population, and we're clearly not playing it. But so let me go back to where I started. I just have to go through all these countries, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, all of them, even Congo Brazzaville. The guy that is there, Sassou Nguesso, has been there forever. And my friend in Rwanda is still there. So if almost more than 50% of African leaders are actually there to stay for a while. Eritrea, Isaias Afewerki, same thing. The guy in Ethiopia, I doubt if that guy too wants to go anywhere. Djibouti, Omar Gwele has been there for 20 years.
The gentleman in Kenya is showing the other side of him.
You understand? Museveni. If you go to Tanzania, Madam is permanent. That Madam is not. She's not. Malawi have had their own share, even though they seem to have some stability. The guy that took over from Mugabe, I'm sorry, I bungled the name, but
you tried.
But it doesn't seem it's going anywhere. Well, go to the north of the, I mean, Morocco is a monarchy, no doubt, but everybody seems to be sitting tight, if you understand. Everybody's sitting tight, The ones that have been replaced are based on maybe power tussle like they had in Nigeria, before they removed Ben Ali in Tunisia, I was there forever, So we can go on and on. General Sisi in Egypt, it doesn't look like he wants to go. So we can actually count on our fingertips countries where there's democracy, where someone will come in, do one tenure, second tenure, and go. You can count. And it's, as I'm talking, I'm trying to count on my head, and I can't. I don't think I can reach 10. You understand? No, I mean, even if I do, I'm sure not up to 20% of the countries in the continent have sustainable democracy. I'm sure 20 is even a generous percentage. So back to the origin of the question. Is democracy the way out for us? Or we should just, like in our traditional culture, you have the African chief, the chief. The chief rules, Do you think we should evolve our own type of democracy? And if it's yes, how should we modify it? What way should we go? Over to you. That's my last question.
So that's inquiry. You credited to Obasanjo, did not start with Obasanjo. It actually started with Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Oh, the great Zik.
Yes, the great Zik. And it's something that rooted in his conception that the democratic system is not. Sorry, let me fix something. The democratic system is not suited for Africa. Suited not in terms that it's not working. It's just in terms that the Africans are not ready for it yet. And I agree with him totally. I hope you don't mind the noise in the background.
No, go ahead.
Because they looked at it from the totality of its functionality and the long-term effects if it continues and its sustainability. And it has proven to a large extent that system was just created by the West as a means of getting their puppets into public offices for the purpose of neocolonialism.
And their puppets don't want to leave except the military takeover.
Yes, and they do not think they consider themselves indispensable, and they do not bring any value to the system they are going. Look at Nigeria with all the wealth for years. Does it equate to the infrastructural development so far? Look at the sectors of the Nigerian economy. Nigeria is a good test case because it's a rich country, but it has its people that are very, very poor, living below the poverty line. Nigeria potentially is richer than most countries in Europe. Most of them.
I mean, you mentioned King Leopold.
Nothing to show for it.
You mentioned King Leopold of Belgium that colonized Congo, Zaire, Congo-Kinshasa. If you look at a map of Europe, you probably won't see Belgium. You have to strain your Your eyes. Look at how big Bongo is. Yeah. Sorry.
And they talk about the wealth in Africa. So it's been the same thing. There's no difference between the state of Africa now than from what it was 200-300 years ago when slavery was thriving. And that's quite unfortunate. Democracy is not working because the people who prescribe that system are not interested in making sure that it works. It doesn't take the United Nations or the Western countries nothing to remind Paul Biya in Cameroon that, look, you cannot go beyond this. Or to tell the gentleman in Uganda, no, you don't. And that's why I quite admire President Trump and his advocacy, which I see is on very credible ground. That is not just you banding sovereignty without an accompanying legitimacy. There must be an internal legitimacy of your people. If you go and capture democracy from nowhere and capture rulership, and rig elections and voice haste and electoral frauds, and you say, you are the leader of the country, sovereignty. That's no sovereignty, because sovereignty should come from the people. So when there's a question of legitimacy, international law would prescribe that sovereignty will not be recognized. And that is the path Trump is following to ensure that there are credible elections in Africa. If you come here to Nigeria, for instance, there are lots and lots of men with high practical and intellectual ability who, if you give this country to them, 2 months is more than enough. You see a very transformed
Give me two examples. You said, but give me mention 2 Nigerians that you think can change the country for you.
Chidi Odika, your friend, is there. Professor Patuton is there. But credible persons. I won't mention P2B because he's part of the old block. He has been governor. And probably they are way of meandering through and getting political power. Once they get it, they run with it.
So you think we need our own type of democracy, correct?
It might not be our own type. Nnamdi Azikiwe suggested the diarchy, but you see that the military itself is a microcosm of the society. It's a reflection of what goes on in the political arena. So you cannot even vouch for the military in terms of discipline, in terms of professionalism. If we get the electoral system correctly in Africa, in any part of this continent, and people are allowed to choose, and you create a nexus, a connection between the people and those in authority in a manner that demands that those in authority are answerable to the people, they have a very good ambience. Democracy is proper, but not the brand it is here.
Okay, so
not the brand it is being done here.
Yeah, we're always pressed for time. I'm sorry. So, but I have a question for you. So, what you just said, summary, is that we should try and evolve something that is still Vox Populi, Vox Dei, as long as it's voice of the people, voice of God. You understand? Yeah, I mean, and
it is the environment. The people know they are people. If I go to my community, people are there to verify.
It just has to be. It just has to be merit based. That's what you're saying.
Not necessarily merit. It has to be placed on the ambit of populism.
Oh, okay.
Popular democracy, popular legitimacy, popular sovereignty.
Vox Populi. Yeah, Vox Populi. Okay, something came to my head now. I don't know if I have to ask you, but I'll ask you, since we're talking that we've done a lot about African dictators and sit-tight. Do you think we're running into that scenario in Nigeria? I mean, 30 governors now in APC, that's that's a lot in modern times.
That's a typical example of the kind of democracy they are playing here in Africa.
Okay.
So that takes it all.
Do we have considering the president is a geriatric also, it's not, I don't need to apologize for that. It's a fact. The president is an old man, and some will say that's not his real age, and all that. But my question is this: do you think we are going into the Paul Biya era, the Bongo era, the Mobutu era, the Yadema era, the Sassou Nguesso era, the Umaguele era, the Museveni era in Nigeria? Do you think we're on the verge of that?
I think we are going towards that era because the desperation with which they brought in these governors. It gives an impression or presupposition that the governors are the ones to cast the votes. But then you may think it's impossible. You live in America, but yeah, it is possible. The governor will be the one state population will go, and then a party state here, militant reign of political problem, and that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. It's not possible. That's the point I'm trying to make. That unless you find democratic elections to be free, fair, and credible, you cannot talk about good governance in Africa. All these documents being pushed out by the ECOWAS Commission, the protocol, best elections and good governance, they are simple because they are just principles of governance being made formally, put on ground, but nobody's following it. The 2023 elections is still debatable, but you have the Supreme Court in Nigeria that have endorsed it, that the man won. And so it continues. So the proclivity of persons who have been in office, continuing from where they stopped, like our good friend in Cote d'Ivoire had done, like Nkurunziza had done, and majority of them from parts of Africa, like your friend in Rwanda has done.
I like Kagame.
Yeah, I like him. On. So
I like Kagame.
So this tendency has become something that you can say, well, I would not say it's part of our DNA, but then it can be called the tendency to remain in office, not to leave, not to bow out at the appropriate time.
I have to stop you there. I think I lost you for a minute, but it's okay. You made your point. Yes, to our viewers, it's a wrap today. We got to go. Yeah, it's a new world order. Nigeria has to
the tendency of people thinking that
I was already rounding off. Yeah, I lost you, so we have to stop there. So I was just I have to say thank you. You always heed our call. Mr. Festus Ogwuche Esquire.
We didn't even go into the.
Yeah, we don't. There's always no time. We have just about an hour. But then you made a lot of very salient points. You're an international lawyer of repute, and you've written a lot of books.
Okay.
And the point is clear: the voice of the people must count. We need to do more. We can't be a consumer nation. The world is signing a lot of agreements. I was going through the communique between the European Union and the Indians. Everybody had so much to bring to the table. The Indian, but we have manpower. If we have the requisite leadership, we can negotiate based on our manpower. There are Nigerians all over the world that, even the government of Nigeria can negotiate a proper exit for their youth. Okay, let our youths that are technologically savvy come and help you develop your country technologically. Then you will give us the technology. We have the manpower. There's so much, but I guess we're not ready for what's happening. And if we're not, hopefully the coming generation will, things. We're rudderless, to put it mildly. Some will disagree, but I think the ship of state is quite rudderless. We can do better. Nigeria can do with the quality of manpower God has blessed Nigeria with. We can do better than we're doing. Barrister Ogwuche, thank you for coming. We just have to find a way to give you 3 hours one day, or we'll just do a part 1, part 2, part 3 edition. Take care, everybody. 7 continents. God bless you all. We gotta go. Bye.